People kept asking me to cover the story with diversity in comics and how his Jawbreakers comic project not only gets unbelievably successful at Indiegogo, but also gets so much hate from the progressive crowds, including from Marvel Comics writers and the comic press. I can totally understand that, especially considering that a lot of my viewers are coming at me from my Marvel Comics cringe videos, but I'm not gonna focus on that in particular, or at least not yet. Instead, I want to provide viewers with the most basic of context first. If you want to check out more updates and more cringe from Marvel or any other comic book specifically, Diversity in Comics has done a much better job than I could because he actually have access to these comics. If you want a more detailed summary of the drama between him and the Marvel comic book pros, I'll link to you a Medium article that covers this topic brilliantly, and also a bunch of other articles from other news sources as well. This video will talk about something slightly related to the drama. I'm not gonna spend too much time defending your big boy Zach for his upcoming comic. I am going to defend comic books and fiction as a whole for being invaded by ideologues. As one of the writers at Marvel clearly admitted at one tweet, they're there to spread ideology rather than actually making good comic books. They hate the audiences, they hate the source material, and they just really hate comic books. But you know who doesn't really hate comic books? My new patrons. Presumably. Huge thanks to Eagles and Vladimir for the pledges on Patreon. You guys are fantastic. Now, some of you may know from my previous videos that a lot of these Marvel comic book pros don't really care about your opinion. But if you're just joining in, well, the people at Marvel Comics don't really care about your opinions. They don't care about your opinion on the book, they don't care about your opinion on the writers, they don't care about you and the source material that they're working on. And they openly admitted that they're going to use comic book to push certain ideologies. This is why you see so many comic books produced by these writers get cancelled, because not a lot of people are willing to buy them. There is a significant amount of comic book produced by Marvel that are either poorly written or do nothing but push political ideologies to your face. Diversity in Comics have covered pretty much almost all of them individually, and he did an excellent job at them, which is why he gets all of the infamy from all the comic book pros at Marvel, including people trying to dox him, threaten his life, etc, etc. Now, regarding the low sales of these comic books to the point of cancellation, you might say that there's little interest in modern comic books as of late. But as the Jawbreakers Indiegogo suggested, with thousands of backers and hundreds of thousands of dollars being raised, and still counting, there actually is a niche market of comic book enthusiasts who wants to enjoy the latest adventures of their favorite superheroes and are even open to new superheroes coming out. So the question right now to the viewers who aren't familiar with what's going on with modern comic books as of late, what caused these modern comic books to be cancelled? Well, let me give you a very quick refresher. If you're not up for some politics, how about some cringe writing? Okay, let's get back to politics again. Nation stops being sexist and starts talking about tampon. It's about time, says Mockingbird. What did Thor say again in Ragnarok?
I think it's great that there is an elite force of women warriors. It's about time.
It's about time indeed, Thor. It's about time indeed. There are worse examples that I can put in here, like that time where Riri Williams practically begged for her teacher to be sexist and racist at her. No, I'm not kidding. She begged her teacher to be sexist and racist at her. Why? So that she can have something to overcome. A personal struggle, so that she can live like it was in the 50s, where women can't be scientists, especially black women, just to add the racism factor. But in my opinion, there are no worse example to highlight the state of Marvel than a comic book from Gabby Rivera called America. Now, this comic has been made fun of by everyone in the past year, but I'm gonna remind you all about this comic to give you some context. This comic is a perfect illustration to show you guys what Marvel Comics has been doing with their comics, and that is to shove the writer's politics down to your face. America Chavez is a queer brown girl. Why do I have to point that out? Because holy menstruation, this book will never ever shut up about it. And by the way, the holy menstruation part is actually legit from the comic book, just so you know the kind of quality writing that we're dealing with here. One particular highlight for me is this page over here. Hey guys, did you know that America Chavez is gay? Well, America Chavez is gay. We're gonna shove this idea to your face, and if you still don't get it, we're going to enhance this with a little bit of narrative subtlety, putting a rainbow flag right next to the characters. I didn't notice that they were gay by the time they hug and talk like a couple, but goddamn, that rainbow flag over there. Oof, that really helps. And those are just the surface of the cringe fest that was America. If you want more details on the cringe factor, pretty much everyone has already made fun of these comics. I did a small reminder of it just to provide all of you with context and reminder of the state of Marvel as of late. So now that you understand the garbage that Marvel has turned into, you understand why people backed the Jawbreakers project up. You understand why #ComicsGate is a thing. This is the reason why people are complaining. This is what ComicsGate is about. It's about comic book creators who make garbage products, don't care about the opinions of their audiences, and the comic book creators who will do everything they can to stop their critics and competitors from criticizing their product. And when I say everything, I mean everything, including the most unethical, pettiest practices that you can ever think of. I've talked about this for quite a while last year, and it seems that with more and more events popping in, people need to be reminded of what Marvel has turned into, and why people are starting to turn into self-publishing their own comics. What I want to focus on right now is a topic being raised by one of the people who are against the ComicsGate drama by the name of Tim Doyle. Tim wants to talk about the medium as a whole, and he's going to frame your arguments into something that they are not.
When people say that they just want good stories and no politics or SJW issues in their entertainment, what they're saying is that when they were kids, they completely missed the subtext of every story, movie, comic book, etc. that they took in. These stories have always been political.
Ah, yes, Tim. We miss the context so much that writers today have to make it so glaringly obvious to your face. This is such an odd reframe of what people are actually saying. When we say we want good stories, we actually just want good stories, and not poorly written trash that I've shown to you earlier. This is a completely disingenuous misrepresentation of people's arguments, and it's only done to make yourself look smarter and anyone else look dumb.
Star Trek, Star Wars, Harry Potter, Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, X-Men, Wonder Woman, on and on. These are political/SJW stories, and the message, if you are paying attention at all, is one of inclusion, deep compassion to your fellow man, and social justice.
No. To compare all of those comic books I've shown earlier to all of those well-established franchises is an insult to all of those well-established franchises. None of those stories, especially in the movie department, shoves the message that Trump is bad, or the world is sexist, or only men can be superheroes, etc., etc. Also, social justice by definition is not the same as social justice in practice.
So if you look at, say, Ms. Marvel, The Last Jedi, Black Panther, or whatever, and say, I just want stories like when I was a kid, get these politics out of my face, the truth is, you weren't a very observant kid, and you grew into a stunted adult. You missed something vital.
When people say, get politics out of my face, what they meant was, stop shoving your politics to my face. They're not saying fictions with political elements should not have any political element at all. That is not what they are arguing. My god, this is unbelievably disingenuous.
Superman is a story of an immigrant coming to America, and we're all stronger by him being here. Spider-Man is about using your power to benefit everyone, not just yourself. Star Wars is anti-authoritarian. Star Trek is socialist utopia driven by exploration and science.
Superman is not the story of an immigrant, as many people point out to me. Superman is the story of a refugee who escaped from planet Krypton seconds before it's on the brink of destruction. As for the rest of your examples, you just use them as a way to say, hey guys, political elements in fictions exist. If you remove them, then they're not going to be good stories. Not our arguments. Not our arguments at all.
These ideas are not even subtext. They're right in your damn face if you bother to open your eyes.
So? That is somehow an excuse for these writers to tell people how gay the main character is? relentlessly, without any hint of subtlety at all? Yeah, screw good writing, screw entertaining the customers. I want the world to know that my character is a queer brown girl, and you gotta deal with it. Or else you're a racist, a sexist, a homophobe, a bigot.
If anyone ever tells you that these new stories and movies have forced diversity or are pushing liberal agendas, what they are telling you is they missed everything about what made the stories they do like great. I have no idea how to make this clearer, it just makes me sad.
Fortunately, there is a cure for your sadness, Tim, and that is to actually listen to what people say when they talk about comic books and actually consider their viewpoint. You might find out that they are actually a lot smarter and have more nuanced arguments than the ones that your strawman have pulled. Also, if you read the Medium article about the Jawbreakers drama, you might find our friend Tim there for, and I'm not kidding here, calling a comic artist Ethan van Sciver a legit homophobic Nazi for posting a Pepe meme. Oh, Tim. Anyway, now that you know the context of this entire thing, which, you know what, I'm just gonna call it Comicsgate. Why people are complaining about Comicsgate, why people are supporting Comicsgate, why people are angry about the comic book creators who are ideologues, why these ideologues love to reframe people's arguments just so that they look smart, just so that you can all look like a bunch of idiots. With all of those, now you can see why people like Diversity in Comics make his comic book videos. Now you see why he's making his own comic books alongside some other comic pros. And yes, by the way, there are comic pros who really can't take any more of this nonsense. These people exist. And thanks to a fierce competition on the horizon, these comic book pros, the bad ones of course, are going to do anything that they can to make sure that this comic book failed. They have tried by contacting one of their publishers, bullying them into making sure that they won't publish the comic, and of course the good old smear articles that seem to work out pretty well, that is until you actually read them and find out that it's just the writer being mad that Diversity in Comics insulted them and other comic pros in Marvel, which is definitely something to be mad about, and not the many attempts of bullying that they have done to Diversity in Comics. And the thing is, these comic book pros have all the power to beat him by, well, just making good comics. Diversity in Comics puts this matter to his own hands and decided to just make his own comic after all of these comic book pros don't want to. But instead of putting a good sport in a healthy competition, they're just going to bully him. Nothing much to say other than I stand by Diversity in Comics. I hope that his comic goes well. I also hope that other independent comic creators on the internet can do well with their comics too. So yeah. Good luck, Zach, and by the time his comic does get on sale, make sure to tell him to set his microphone to one channel and educate him about this really wonderful thing called a tripod.